counter.
But no, I feel
It feels very
Hello and welcome to the Unwanted Opinion podcast, the show in which me and my friends give our unwanted opinion on all things film. My name is Lewis and I'm joined today with Gonzalo.
Hey.
Hello, and Kyle will be joining us later for the second half of the show because on today's episode we are of course talking about Barbenheimer.
Barbenheimer.
All
We're
the
doing
craze
the
in the
meme.
world is breaking box office records. Everything's pink. Even my Discord icon's pink right now. It's taken the world by storm. So we're gonna have reviews for Oppenheimer, and we'll have a full spoiler-filled review for Barbie because everyone has seen that. But I'm alone, and I can't believe I'm the only one who's seen Oppenheimer in one of the biggest box office weekends of all time. Kyle had some issues he had to deal with, and what's your excuse, Gonzalo?
I haven't had the chance. I was on holiday, and the only reason I actually watched the Barbie movie is because my girlfriend was really excited to watch it. But I didn't have the chance to watch Oppenheimer, and I got back to work and had a whole load of work to do. Well, I say that. Now, I finished all the work I had to do, which is very funny, because I'm paid hourly, so I accidentally speed run everything, and now I'm just waiting for more work to be assigned. It's great stuff. You gotta stretch it.
You gotta delay. You gotta take ages to do that drawing. You know?
I know. I gotta stretch it more. It's just, I don't know, man. I'm efficient sometimes. I just get onto it and I just do it. Oh, man.
I mean, the funny thing was, like, you saw Barbie. Like, you got it like a day before.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
Because it
Gonzalo's
came on
right out the
Thursday
gate.
here.
He's seen Barbie, and then he's gonna see Oppenheimer, and it's gonna be great.
Oh man, almost. That would have been great. That would have been great if I could have seen both. Beat you guys, and for once be the one that watches everything. That would have been awesome. But
you almost had it.
I almost
had a great head start. But, oh well.
I got the pink, didn't get the atomic. Yes.
I guess I will jump into the Oppenheimer review. So this will be a full non-spoiler review because I'm not just gonna bring Gonzalo on here to record and then just berate him with spoilers.
Just spoil it
so
to
there
my
will be
face.
no spoilers for Oppenheimer. Look, if you want to know spoilers, I mean, if you've read the book, you know the facts. I mean, there's obviously some subjectivity stuff, but there isn't really a lot to spoil.
I wanted to ask you, because, like, is this movie based on the historical figure, or is it based on a specific, like story of the historical figure? Like, did someone write a book,
it's
a specific
based
biopic?
Off American Prometheus.
Okay.
Which is like a big 600-page, whole sort of biography on Oppenheimer. And well, look, I'll just get into it. So, Oppenheimer is, of course, directed by one of the biggest, most populist filmmakers on the planet, and that's Christopher Nolan. Like I said when we did our Nolan episode, he's one of the last few directors on Earth who you can put their name on the poster and people will go see it because of the name. It's
interesting because he's both a very popular director and a very kind of like a tour director. Like he does very non-mainstream filmmaking, and still he is very much like a mainstream kind of figure that people like.
Exactly.
Crave.
Honestly, there's off the top of my head, the only other director who, if you put their name on the poster and people will go see it, obviously his budgets usually tend to be a lot less, is Quentin Tarantino. If you put his name on the poster, people will go see it. Even Spielberg, Scorsese, they don't have that magic anymore. It's a very select few now. But so it was obviously written by Christopher Nolan. And obviously as well as Kai Bird and Martin Sherwin, and it stars Cillian Murphy, Emily Blunt, Matt Damon, Robert Downey Jr., Alden Ehrenreich, Florence Pugh, Jason Clarke, and far too many to count. This is a stacked ensemble. And of course, the story follows, of course, Robert J. Oppenheimer, and it basically covers his entire career and life, pretty much from his beginnings at Cambridge University all the way to post-war. And in typical Nolan fashion, this is a story told out of order. So we get, the beginning opens up with Cambridge, and then we jump to post-World War II, where there's an inquiry into him and his apparent communist allegiances, and then jumps to the main crux of the story, which is, of course, him
so we kind
building
of
the bomb in Los Alamos with a bunch of other physicists.
So we kind of like learn about the Manhattan Project from that kind of like post-war kind of like questionnaire kind of thing. Like
Yes.
it's
That's
that takes him
that's
back.
the framing device for the narrative, is the inquiry into why, or his appeal into why he should still have security clearance to work with the Atomic Energy Commission. And that's where the character of Robert Downey Jr.'s Louis Strauss is involved, because he's a man with a vendetta against him and wants to ensure he doesn't get his security clearance appealed. And then through that, we go through his entire career and the Manhattan Project.
Like we're going back like from the Red Menace back to World War II.
Yes.
That's an interesting contrast as well.
I like to say there's kind of two wars going on in this film. There is, of course, World War II and the battle against the Nazis and the race to build a bomb before the Nazis, and then there is the Cold War in the post World War II section, and him trying to fight to prove that he's a true American citizen.
Yeah,
so
it's a really good contrast when you think about it, because like the two wars, like you go from full on like detachment that then becomes paranoia when it's that arms race with the Nazis, and then you go from that to the paranoia taking over during the Cold War, and that like a very violent war that's actually fought. Like the weapons are actually being used and deployed, versus this way more silent war that's more about allegiances and stuff like that. Like it's really interesting to have that like back and forth and that contrast. Sorry.
It makes for a very, very interesting film, because this is a 3-hour epic, and I'll tell you one thing, from the get-go, it doesn't stop. This is a film, Gonzalo, that is 98% scored. There is constantly stuff happening. There is constantly, vision, like Oppenheimer having visions of scientific theory and concepts, and it being visualized for us. The whole film is scored by Ludwig Göransson, who obviously did the score for Tenet, and his score is absolutely fantastic here. It's riveting, and of course it's Nolan. There's bombs going off. It's very loud as well. There is constantly noise and arguments and chatter going on. It really doesn't stop from the beginning, and when it's done, you're like, wow, 3 hours has passed. That is, it never lets you
finally
go
take
because
a breath.
of yes, you could finally take a breath. But look, let's get to the meat and potatoes here. Everyone has, of course, raved about Cillian Murphy's performance, and what more can I say? It's the best performance of the year. It's absolutely brilliant. It is one... The way he just... Obviously, he looks like Robert Oppenheimer. Yeah. But the way he just gets into this character, he's this man filled with complete dread and pathos, but he's also hypocritical, he's also contradictory, he's also one who understands the severity of building this bomb, but will neither be happy if he succeeds or fails in that mission, because his ego and his curiosity will not be able to let it go. He wants to, he has that morbid curiosity, he wants to see it through. And of course, like I said, the ensemble is absolutely stacked, and no one, even you've got people in here who are in the film for like 4 minutes, 2 minutes even, like big names, who I won't even spoil you, because some you're like, what are they doing here? No one puts their foot wrong, genuinely. Even the man you hate, Gonzalo, Kenneth Branagh doesn't put a foot wrong here. Honestly, that everyone is on top form, because they obviously all want to work with Nolan. They all want to be a part of this massive film. But I want to get down to the members of the cast who I think were absolutely phenomenal. Yes, the standouts. That is Robert Downey Jr. as Louis Strauss. There's something about Robert Downey Jr.'s performance here which I haven't really seen in a long time, obviously, because he's not really done much. He did, he did Iron Man and the Marvel stuff for ages, and then he did that Dolittle film, which we shouldn't speak about. But here, oh my God, he completely Robert Downey Jr. completely disappears, and for someone of his stardom, for him to completely disappear is incredibly impressive. And what it is, of course, he's got some prosthetics and some hair stuff, but for the most part, it's the mechanisms of his face, how agitated, just ever so slightly when someone does a little thing to insult him, or a little thing to do, or just bug him here and there, he has like flinches, he has these things in his mechanisms of his face, and his bitterness towards Oppenheimer, it makes for incredible conflict for the
See,
film.
there's this amazing thing that like whenever you meet someone, you get like a certain vibe and a certain energy from them, you know. And like when we have like these big stars that are so incredibly recognizable, and we know what we're expecting from them, like we see them in these giant blockbusters, basically and essentially playing themselves, but then they manage to inhabit a completely different character. And we've seen this recently. I remember in the Batman Penguin. Like, I know he was wearing all that kind of, like, makeup as well and all this prosthetics, but it's more the kind of, like, energy and the mannerisms and the little twitches and the stuff that they bring to it that makes you think, hey, this isn't Robert Downey Jr. This is a man that looks like Robert Downey Jr., but is a completely different person. Yeah. And I feel like carrying that energy is just fantastic. There's actually been
some very interesting readings into sort of, like I said, the consequence of power. There's this idea of... There is a subtle reading that people have put forward where actually the film is also a comparison to what Christopher Nolan did with The Dark Knight and the floodgates he opened in the success of that film, and he purposely cast Robert Downey Jr. to sort of emphasize his point, and by that I mean he basically began the whole the renaissance of superhero films, and now he's caused problems within the industry. I don't really buy into that reading, but it is funny Robert Downey Jr. is here.
It makes sense if you're talking about atomic bombs, you know, like one thing snaps and then the chain reaction happins, you know.
But look, I'll get to Emily Blunt as well. She isn't as she has very, very important scenes and a very, very important role in the film. And there's one specific scene that is already people online are loving, and she is brilliant because she's much more cold and ruthless than the likes of Oppenheimer. Her whole role is to completely defend the family and defend the name, and she's so great. She's so great in this film as well. And I want to say this because no one's talking about him, and that's Jason Clarke. Jason Clarke in this film, who's playing basically one of the prosecutors in the inquiry and the post-war stuff. He is absolutely just completely engaging. Everything he's doing, he's fully committed to this Roger Robb character. I forgot the name there. He is just, and there's specific moments obviously when things are getting more heated, and much like Robert Downey Jr., I mean, the agitation shows, and it's just, he's absolutely phenomenal. But look, this is like the culmination of everything Nolan's done to this point, I think. Like I said, they have the black and white and colour stuff to sort of emphasise what is fact and what is subjectivity, and it jumps between time periods and does that little stuff just like Memento. There is a very big ticking clock and heist sort of aspect to it. You know, when they have to go and recruit all the scientists, which had that whole Inception quality, and obviously this harkens back to Interstellar with all the scientific jargon and exposition and all of it being sort of visualized in a really, really cinematic manner. And what this really is as well is it's Nolan's most human film to date. And with all that stuff I was saying about the actors before, it's actually proved that he isn't just a filmmaker who can visualize all these insane cinematic concepts like something like Tenet or Dunkirk, where that's a really heavy direct, that's all just a director's vision, very all about concept and execution, very little about character. This has proved he can be an actor's director and be a really, really successful one as that, as well as being incredibly cinematic, because of course all the visual effects stuff, apparently there was no use of CGI here. When it came to like all the explosions and all the scientific concept stuff, all of it is practical effects, and it looks astounding. And also, this is the fourth collaboration with Hoyt van Hoytema, who also shot, by the way, last year's Nope. Remember how beautiful that film looked? And also he shot films like Shame and Her, two of my favorite films ever. Yeah. And he is just his cinematography is once again perfect. It's just grand, but also really intimate, because
imagine getting to work with someone like that as a cinematographer, like putting up this team, like sorry.
But look, a lot of this film is close-ups, and that's what I'm saying about the actor's director thing. He's really wanting to bring the actors to the forefront here. He's really wanting them to perform and really wanting them to emote, and really he's putting a lot of the weight on them, you know, they're like really putting a lot of the pressure on them to really deliver in this film, because a lot of it is just rooms and talking, and then oh, I'll just throw in some sort of crazy visual concepts and here's a big nuclear explosion, that sort of stuff. But yeah, also I mentioned Ludwig Göransson's score is absolutely phenomenal, and yeah, I've just ranted on at you for ages.
I'm now actually very hyped about this movie just because of the things you've been saying. Like, honestly, I've seen Nolan be a very kind of conceptual director, being very good at conveying really weird concepts visually and stuff, and I've seen him like do certain emotional scenes with his characters, but I've never left a Nolan film thinking, wow, those were some really interesting characters. I always leave it thinking, wow, that's a really interesting concept, or wow, that was a very interesting way of shooting that. I never really leave thinking about the characters. I barely remember any of the characters' names outside, I guess, fucking Batman, you know? But like, I mean,
that's the thing. This is kind of a huge turning point in his career, I think. I mean, look, obviously, me and Kyle did our Nolan episode last week. We talked about some of our favourites, and some of those films are some of my favourite films of all time. The Dark Knight, I think his character work there is actually really good, especially with the likes of Two-Face and Joker.
Yeah, I was going to say Joker, and it's one of
and
like
Commissioner Gordon and stuff.
Yeah,
like
one of
that's
the
and then really, kind of it's weird because really after the likes of Memento, Prestige, and The Dark Knight, that's when he kind of got more obsessed with the ideas of concepts and sort of, you know, having these ideas with like Inception, Interstellar, Tenet, Dunkirk. That's
Prestige
when he
seemed to be kind of like, for me, like this step from him going away from characters doing interesting stuff to interesting stuff happening to characters, you know? And then suddenly we're seeing these gigantic concepts that, and I'm not saying his characters are bad, and I'm not saying they don't have moments and stuff.
I mean, I like a lot of the characters in Inception, like Colin.
I really like them, but like it's not really very much of like a character study. Like in Inception, you do follow this protagonist, you do understand what's wrong with him through this kind of thing, but it's the concept that really drives it. And you see a lot of the same ideas in Interstellar as well, which is another fantastic movie. But it's really interesting to see him like explore, rather than have the concept be like the reason we're exploring this character, be the other way around. Having this character exploration lead to some conceptual, visual kind of stuff, you know?
I'll just round it off here. Look, Oppenheimer, like I said, the scale is massive, and yet it's simultaneously intimate. It's one that manages to put its human characters first and becomes a really interesting character study, not only on Oppenheimer, but also on the likes of Strauss, and then plenty of other people in the film, but I don't really want to spoil here. And look, but it's also incredibly heavy. Like I said, this is a film that's dealing with the consequences of power, godlike power that really shouldn't belong to us, and sort of the chain reaction that does cause and will eventually cause in humanity. And look, it's profound, it's really haunting. There's a scene here which is made me tear up because of how disgusting and horrifying it makes you feel, not the way you expect at all. It's one that actually really gave me an element of David Lynch, which I was really surprised no one could pull off. And it's also, like I said, it's spearheaded by Cillian Murphy's performance, who manages to capture that dread and that fear and that worry of the stuff they have created. It's beautiful, it's horrifying, it's haunting, and I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10. I didn't actually say my one slight negative of the film. I know I've just gushed about it for like 15 minutes. But I will say this. I said at the start how it doesn't stop. From the minute it starts, it just goes for 3 hours. That is also a slight issue, because I do think you
need to breathe a little bit.
There are moments where, honestly, quiet would have really helped, because like I said, like 95% of this thing is scored. Like the music is always going, and it's funny because I've seen this twice now, and I saw Mission Impossible 7 again after this, and that had a lot more quiet than I remembered. And I was like, you know, Nolan could have really used like scenes like this where people are talking, there's no music, and because there's certain emotional beats that happen, and it doesn't really let you digest it. It just,
I know what you mean.
Right, we're moving on to the next thing. We got to go. We got to go.
I mean,
and look, Nolan's always kind of been like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say I can also understand with like how you said that like this is very much like a 3-hour movie, but a very dense 3-hour movie. Like it's not 3 hours because they take like a 10-minute shot of just nothing kind of thing. It's like going. I can understand that maybe there was a push to try to make it as short as possible, and this is as short as they could get it, you know.
Yeah, and look, but that's the thing. There are certain moments where I was like, that should have been more effective. That should have affected me more, and it doesn't because it's we're moving on to the next thing. Look, like I said, but there are moments where I did tear up, but not because of the emotional beats per se, but because of how haunting and how horrifying the stuff that Nolan is suggesting.
Hot take.
Stuff.
Atomic bomb bad. It's a hot take for the show.
Yeah, that's not a hot take. Anyway, and look, I'll just say this. I've seen this now in IMAX and 70mm film.
You're lucky. Yeah.
Obviously, Kyle wanted to hear which one makes for the better experience, which was quite interesting. I never got to do 70mm IMAX because there are no facilities in Scotland that can project that stuff. There's very few of them around the world actually that have those 70mm IMAX projectors, which is actually, some of them have been catching fire because of how much power they're having to use. And film is obviously very flammable. I will say this: the IMAX screening I was at, there are audio issues.
Okay.
There are times where I have to really strain to hear the dialogue because of just the like I said, he's got that Dunkirk and that Tenet audio issue.
That's always happened to me in his movies. I remember in Interstellar going from like to just boom, and everything blows up. Yeah,
those audio issues have really been prevalent for now the last 10 years in Nolan's film.
Yeah.
Some films more egregious than others. Tenet has a really bad issue with it. Dunkirk sometimes too.
When I watched Tenet, I had to put subtitles on.
Yeah, when I rewatched it again recently, I put on the subtitles.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it a lot. But look, with the IMAX screen in particular, I did have to strain to hear. Okay. Look, that could be a subjective thing.
But not in
I was
the
actually with Madeline.
ones.
She didn't really seem to have that issue where I did miss some lines of dialogue because of it.
Maybe
However,
more deaf.
The scale of it on IMAX was phenomenal. It's incredible to see. Looks beautiful. Now with 70mm, however, the audio is much better for me. I thought. I thought the dialogue was much crisper. I could understand things more. It looks much richer. The colours and the contrasts are really, really rich and nice. But of course, because it's 70mm film, there is a slight bit of flickering when there is white. Which can't be helped because it's a manual projector. It's not a
I
digital
don't
one.
dislike that. I actually think that adds charm to it. But
there you go. So there you go. There's your pros and cons of
anyone
which
who
format
was
to watch in.
Anyone who was like going to see the movie now is like, wait. There's more ways to watch it than just digital. What do you mean?
Yeah.
Is this like a 3D thing? No. What is this IMAX 70mm thing? Yeah. Don't worry, guys.
So
just watch whatever version you have.
The scale and obviously when things are loud, it's brilliant in IMAX.
Yeah.
But also, the color was a bit richer and the audio was a bit more balanced on that 70mm one. So
would you suggest
there you go, pick and choose.
Like if Kyle wants the best of both worlds, maybe he goes watch the 70mm one just so he can understand the fucking plot, and then he watches the IMAX one.
The thing is, though, I asked Madeline when we came out of that, I was like, did you have to strain to really pick up? Because I missed dialogue in that and because of the weird audio stuff, and she was like, no, I could understand it. And I've heard some reviews as well that say they have the same issue and others that don't, so I don't know, maybe it just depends on, maybe I'm just
Lewis,
exactly.
Maybe we're just deaf, honestly. We are wearing headphones right now, and prolonged listening to headphones at loud volumes is terrible for the ear, so maybe
okay, but look, we have prattled on about Oppenheimer for too long. I would give it a 9 out of 10. I guess now it's time for Kyle to join us, and we can finally talk about Barbie. God, there he is. He's coming on, guys. He's making us wait. Oh, there he is.
The man, the legend, the Kyle.
He's representing his corporate overlords as well with that t-shirt.
Oh shit! Yeah, no.
Branded t-shirts.
I honestly, I may have stole this from like a charity bank at our work. So I'm not gonna say what work it is. Just
Kyle steals from charity.
But they had.
There we go.
They had far too many, and no charities take much branded material apparently.
Well, there you go.
So I have this and a pair of socks.
Nice.
There you go.
So
Kyle, did you hear my ranting about the IMAX and 70mm? Does that make you more confused how to watch it?
I was kind of half in conversation, listening, so I was half doing other things.
Yeah.
I heard like white blurs or something like that.
Of like flickering, yes.
Yeah.
Flickering, and I heard you're deaf or something.
Oh, yes, of course.
We're deaf.
Ironically, I heard that perfectly. I heard you were struggling to hear shit.
Yes, of course.
Oh,
right, okay.
man.
But
Yes.
look, now that we're all here, we can now jump into Barbie. So, everyone
Yes.
listening, this is from the get-go going to be a full spoiler review.
Full
We're
on
just going to go
spoilers.
right into it. I'm sure everyone's seen it. This film has made $500 million in about 6 days.
It's also
Like,
a hard
that's
movie to
so
talk about
good.
if you don't spoil it. Like, there's very little point in talking about it without
Yes.
spoiling it. So
Right, so I will quickly jump into the plot. So, right, Barbie was written and directed by Greta Gerwig and also co-penned by her husband Noah Baumbach. It stars, much like Oppenheimer's insane cast, it stars Margot Robbie, Ryan Gosling, Issa Rae, Kate McKinnon, Emma Mackay, blah blah blah. Too many people. Will Ferrell, America Ferrera.
That's the
list
thing.
goes on
Like,
and
we
on.
literally have half of Hollywood in the Barbie movie
Yeah.
and the other half in the Oppenheimer.
Half an Oppenheimer.
one.
It's,
Yeah.
That
it's
is
genuinely-
true.
It's ridiculous. But look, from its opening narration, which if you've seen the very first trailer that came out for this film, that is the opening to
Yes.
this film, which is the
Just a
parody
little
of
bit
2001
extended, but yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
A parody of
the
2001: A Space Odyssey. Yeah. Which is narrated by Helen Mirren, who does other narration throughout the film as well. And it's like, it has this whole like postmodern playfulness and has a very, very nice little analysis on basically how Barbie became so popular when she arrived.
Yes.
And was first released. But from here, the daily life of Barbie Land is shown as the Barbies go about their perfect existence, being awarded in a multitude of industries, going to the beach, and ending their day with a glamorous dance number and a slumber party. I mean, it's perfection
Yeah.
for them.
great.
However, things begin to turn sour when Barbie begins to ruminate about death all of a sudden, and her feet have now suddenly become flat too. To understand these strange new happenings, Barbie must travel to the real world and confront her owner, who is somehow turning her into something else. So, now I can stop talking for a second.
Yes.
Gonzalo, what did you
Yes.
think of Barbie overall?
I had a lot of trouble digesting this movie because I absolutely loved the hell out of this movie and enjoyed a ton of it. But I also have a couple of issues with it that kind of taint the whole message of the movie a little bit for me. But despite that, it was a marvelously made movie. Greta Gerwig strikes again. She did a brilliant job. Some of my favorite scenes are like the most quiet ones, the most introspective ones, the ones where it feels like they just handed her the camera, like literally. And it was really good movie. I was surprised. Not really surprised, because Margot Robbie has shown herself to be a really good actress, but I wasn't expecting her to be this good. The way she can like jump from absolute hilarity and full-out comedy to some of the most introspective and human and emotional moments, it's whiplashed, but in the best way. Like, it's whiplashed, but it carries you with it. You go from laughing your ass off to like suddenly being aware of your humanity. She's very fucking good. Everyone in the cast did a fantastic job in this movie. The dance numbers are amazing and gorgeous, and I want to see more of them. And yeah, overall, I just thought it was a really pretty movie and a very fun one. And it brought to the surface a lot of topics that I'm very sure that a bunch of the people that went to see it thinking, haha, lol, it's the movie about Barbie, would have come out of the cinema learning a bunch of basically just feminist rhetoric they did not know about beforehand. So, you know, overall, a good for society.
Good time.
Thumbs up.
Okay, what did you think? You just saw it last night, didn't you?
Good for
Or 2 nights ago.
society.
Sorry.
Two. What day is it?
Thursday.
It's
Wednesday.
Thursday.
No, last night.
Oh, you saw
Yeah.
it last night?
No,
Sorry.
it's Thursday.
Yes,
it's
Thursday.
Thursday, yeah.
Sorry. Tuesday night I saw it. I can't what day of the week it is. No, I saw it on Tuesday night, and I have to say I really, really enjoyed this film. I've not been in such a packed out cinema in a long time.
Same here,
Yeah.
honestly.
Honestly.
It was so hard to find seats, and this was like, I was watching it in English in Spain, where it's like they give it the shitty small room, projection room, and like 4 people are there normally. It was packed. There was not a single empty seat.
we were packed, and I don't know about you, Lewis, but was everybody dressed up for yours?
Yeah.
A lot of
Pink and
people in
white.
pink. A lot of people in pink. I saw this on a Saturday showing at about 4:30. So this was every seat was taken up, and
I saw it
loved
on Tuesday night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
there was, I would
That's
say, 90%
incredible.
of the people
Yeah.
were dressed up as pink cowgirls.
See, that's incredible because, like, the thing
It was
is,
something else.
when I saw it, it
A
was
lot
on
of,
like,
the age range, by the way,
yeah,
was insane.
yeah. There was a grandma sitting next to me. It was amazing to see
There
her
were
reactions.
I sat in front of about 5 people who must have been in their 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
I
was
mean, look,
that's wild that it's still on
Yeah.
Tuesday. Not only are you getting it packed, but packed with people like cosplaying in like pink. Because like I thought
Yeah.
the only reason we were seeing so many people in pink and white, and even like a bunch of teenagers dressed up in suits, ready to go watch it like Minion style. I thought that's because it was literally the day it came out, because I saw it on Thursday, like like a day before it even came out in the UK.
I thought it was like
Yeah.
the initial
I
release.
thought, hey,
sort of
it's the
hype
initial
for it.
release. There's going to be some hype. People are like dressed up and stuff. But holy crap! Still last Tuesday. Wow.
Not just that, but also see my. Obviously, I saw Oppenheimer as well Friday afternoon, so busy, packed IMAX showing.
Yeah.
And then when I saw the 70mm, get this, 4:30 on a Tuesday afternoon, the entire thing was sold out. 4:00. I
Wow.
couldn't
Yeah,
believe it.
that's so
Every
mad.
like Barbie and Oppenheimer, it's just.
Wow.
I mean, my parents tried to go see Oppenheimer on Sunday.
Yeah, they couldn't.
Couldn't do it. Sold out. They couldn't get in.
Damn.
Really?
Yeah, they couldn't get in. It's just
Damn.
But
I'm
I mean,
loving.
I was
I'm
very
loving
lucky
this.
with my
This is
ticket.
great.
I miss having a
is-
cinema where every seat's taken and everyone, no one's on their phone and everone's watching
Oh
the
my
thing
God.
and taking
Did
it seriously. It's
Barbenheimer
great.
bring back cinemas? Did they
Yeah.
slowly
Well,
awaken?
do you know what I know? An interesting thing
Yeah.
we were talking about today at my work.
Yeah.
And somebody actually related this quite a lot. Apparently, there's a surge in. So back in 2008, when you had the financial crisis,
Yes, crisis.
crisis, a bunch of people were stopping going out for like major meals, and what they found as a kind of weirdly at the time it would have been a cheaper form of entertainment was going to the cinema,
Yeah.
and apparently that's what they're saying. It's a resurgence because of the cost of living crisis.
Right,
Yeah.
That a lot of people are going, like, they don't want to go on huge meals out. They're not going to go on huge holidays.
Yeah.
So
So
they're
they're
going to
doing
the
like
cinema.
stay-at-home vacations and spending at the cinema.
Yeah.
Which is, I was like,
That makes
to them, I was
sense.
like,
That makes sense.
that's
That does make
interesting.
sense,
That's an interesting take on it.
Right, Kyle, sorry, we
But no,
completely
yeah.
glazed over what your
Yeah,
little
I was
overall
glazed
thoughts.
over my thoughts of it. No, like I said, I absolutely love this film.
Yeah.
I saw it with my friend Oren and his girlfriend Shona. We had just an absolute blast
Yeah.
all the time. Honestly, we found it just so funny. I mean, once again, the sets are goddamn
Oh my,
beautiful.
production
Yeah,
design is
yeah.
Barbie
Oh my
Land
God.
was fantastic.
Stunning.
I mean,
The amount of work that must have
you know,
gone into that.
I was so glad. I was really worried watching the film that when we went into the real world, we weren't going to go back to
Yeah,
Barbie Land.
yeah.
And
It was going to be
I
like
was like
one of those
I was like quite
kids
glad when we
movies.
got back in.
Yeah.
I also have to admit that when they were doing that kind of like transition from Barbie Land to the real world, I was sitting there and I was going like, why am I getting Beau's Afraid vibes? when they're doing that play?
Those are play
You know?
theatre sets.
the
They're
theatre
sort of
sets.
used
Yeah,
to
the
call it.
theatre
yeah,
set
yeah,
sort
yeah.
of vibe. But no, I thought the comedy was just fantastic. I actually quite like the story. I mean, I'm interested to see what Gonzalo's issues are with it later. The cast, everybody was fantastic. Obviously the main
Margot Robbie.
Sorry, I'm so
yes.
bad. Margot Robbie. I was like Robo Margie.
Robo
What's her
Margie.
name?
Robo Margie.
Robot
Best actress,
Margie.
Robo Margie.
I know. I was like Robert Margie.
And the Oscar
I was
goes
like,
to
Margot
Robert
Robbie.
Margie.
Yeah, John Travolta. Give it Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling are just fantastic as stereotypical Barbie, and I'm guessing
Stereotypical
Beach
Kent. Yeah,
technically.
Beach Kent. Yeah. His
And
job is beach.
We had a fantastic time. I have to say, just so I can say out, there was, I don't know about you, Liz, but there was one joke in the cinema that only me and Oren laughed at.
The Justice League
And
joke.
it brought so much
Yeah.
attention to us, and we were like, oh, we were like
I
sinking in our
did
seats.
the most stereotypical thing I could have done at that moment. I laughed and then I turned to my girlfriend to explain to her the joke, and then I just felt it.
You're
and
like
then
one of those Kens,
I was
aren't you?
literally one of
You're
those kids.
literally
I
one of
turned
the
around,
Kens.
explained it, and then I was like, "Oh fuck." Oh, fuck.
And the irony was after he came out of it,
Yeah.
the father was actually going, The Godfather is actually a really good film.
Thank God I'm actually not that big a fan of the Godfather
Kyle,
movies,
it
but you know.
would be even worse. It'd be him going, "No, you're misunderstanding Zack Snyder's
You don't
Justice League.
understand.
This is why it's a masterpiece."
actually, you don't understand because
You don't
the
understand
real cut of the
it,
movie, it really does add a lot.
But no,
Yeah.
I thought that was a
That
very
was
funny
hilarious.
cut, and
That was
I
hilarious.
give credit for Greta Gerwig for putting that in.
Oh God,
So,
yeah.
But yeah, what about you, Lewis?
Look,
have you said?
I
was gonna say,
had
yeah.
a blast. Look,
Hmm.
it is a you know what I love about it as well? This is just a little thing that I love about it, is
Yeah.
that it's completely nonsensical. They
Yes.
just travel to the real world and then go back.
Yeah,
And it's
and then
like,
travel back
there's
and
no
go back.
stupid
They just-
plot thing, there's no like,
Yeah,
what is the
yeah.
logic behind it?
No.
It's, if you go in this box, everything will be back to normal.
Yeah,
How?
yeah.
What's the
No.
logic? No one cares. And I think if you released this 10 years ago, everyone on like CinemaSins and whatever
Oh my
forums
God,
would be like,
yes,
it doesn't make any
yes.
sense. But I think we're kind of past the point now where it's like
I
the whole
hope
sort
so.
of plot hole logic and people could just have
The
a good
lack of a
time.
MacGuffin in this movie
Yeah.
made me very happy. I will have
True,
to
true,
say.
true.
Oh yeah.
There was
But, like-
nothing they were chasing after. Nothing that it was just like all about.
I think they're
the
chasing
characters.
after the patriarchy. I think
Yeah,
that was the
that's the
MacGuffin
That
MacGuffin,
was
the
Ken's
patriarchy.
for a lot of them.
That
No, but-
scene with Kent, as soon as he gets to the real world and you get that montage, is one of the best
So
moments
funny.
in cinema
So
history. That was
funny.
fucking
Margot
hilarious.
Robbie's going like, I have this uncertainty of anxiety.
Yeah.
I don't. I feel great.
Like I said, it's nonsensical and it's genuinely all the better for it. Margot Robbie is the heart and soul of this. She manages to be really funny, but also gets those really, really heartfelt and emotional scenes. She's fantastic. Ken obviously has become an internet fan favourite. Ryan Gosling was born to play this role. His whole just
Such
like
a fucking good job.
just idiot vibe and just
Yeah.
surfer dude energy.
He's so
and
good.
just
Little
it's
surfer
so,
incel.
he's just so insecure and suddenly becomes a weird incel who's obsessed with
Yeah.
horses. He just absolutely brings the comedy. Ryan Gosling's just one of the best actors working today,
Yeah.
and it's just like you're saying, the production design, it looks fabulous. It's just we knew going in, and I remember I was saying for ages, people are going to go in and not think it's going to be a silly little Barbie movie and take their kids. It's
Yeah.
not a kids' film.
It's really
it's
not.
dealing
It's
with
not.
very,
It's
very
not.
serious ideas, and it handles them really well. It's not
But at the same
groundbreaking
time,
or
I
revolutionary
was gonna
commentary,
say-
but it is astute and it is clever.
Yeah,
and I like.
but I was gonna say
Uh-huh.
it's not a kids' film, but it's also a movie that you could very well take your kids to and
Yes.
not really expose them to anything horrible. You know, like it might be an adult film, but it's not
Yeah.
an like we say fuck every 5 minutes, so it's an
No.
adult film kind of film. You know,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I do appreciate the fact that they were like, hey, we're gonna talk about these serious topics and stuff, but we're gonna make it in a way that if you accidentally take your kids to see it, they're really not gonna suffer the consequences. Yeah.
But I mean, this whole obviously a lot of should I say sensitive, or should I even say snowflakes on the right wing of the political
Yes,
spectrum?
they're really mad about
have been
Barbie.
very, very upset by some of the stuff said in this film,
Very
because there is
upset.
a commentary and a dissection of toxic masculinity
Yeah.
and sort of male identity. But I think what I really liked about that is it's one where it sort of highlights that if gender power is disproportionate one way or the other,
Yeah.
like you see at the start, and like you see when Ken makes his Mojo Dojo Casa House in
Yes.
Ken's World, or I can't remember
Yes,
exactly what it's called.
yes.
He shows that if you lead it one way or the other, it becomes chaos and no one is truly happy. I like that sort of stuff, and the sort of extreme versions of masculinity will only cause harm to the male ego itself.
But that's
I really
another
like
thing.
that.
Like it really does
It's just-
touches on a thing a lot of media doesn't touch, and it's about how the patriarchy, it very obviously and very clearly hurts women, incredibly obviously. But it also does hurt men. In a way, having this kind of like standards of masculinity and stuff like that does create unhappy people. Like the way Kent holds on to this patriarchy for so long, and it's like, oh no, this is the only thing because now at least I have the reins. I'm still unhappy. I still don't have what I want.
Yep.
I'm still lacking a purpose, but at least I'm in charge now.
Yeah.
You know, and
And look,
like, yeah,
if you're feeling offended by the depiction of men in this film, who are clearly caricatures and
very
it's toxic
exaggerated
masculinity
caricatures.
dialed up to 11,
Yes.
then that's more of a
That's a you
reflection
thing.
on you. If you believe that you
That's
feel
a
attacked
you
by
problem.
that version of masculinity that is depicted, then
Yeah.
maybe you should look in the mirror, because I think it's a you problem.
Yeah.
If you believe
Again,
that's what
like,
things should be
I
like.
literally turned to my girlfriend in the middle of the cinema and did the thing they were making fun of, and I realized they were making fun of me. And I didn't take that personally. I thought that was fucking hilarious. If you do take it personally, then maybe there's something that you should really look into. Maybe you should do a Ken.
Let's
Understand that you're
get
enough.
get into your gripes, because
Okay.
yeah,
So
hear this.
they're slight gripes, but overall, I don't know how to say this. This was a fantastic movie. Like, this is not trying to detract from the movie at all. I think they did an incredible job. Everything from production, like the set design, to like all the way to cinematography and the direction and the writing, I think was glorious, and I really, really enjoyed myself with it. And I thought it was a very fun movie. I kind of got a bitter taste in my mouth from the way things like the Mattel Corporation were represented.
Right, that's that's
Yeah.
really funny. That's
Yeah.
really, keep going, but I'll get to that.
Oh yeah, because like for me, they are kind of sort of the antagonists, but in a way that's very harmless and like makes them like puts them in a pedestal as like, oh, but they're not that bad, really, kind of thing. Because they do attack them a lot at the beginning of the movie with like the very idea that there are absolutely no females at the top of this like company that sells the image of womanhood to women. There's absolutely no women in charge, and I don't think there has been in the actual Mattel Corporation for a lot of years now. Currently, they do have a male CEO, and I think they've had a male CEO ever since the woman who actually started the company. But yeah, it's kind of, it does leave a bitter taste in my mouth. The way they kind of like forget about those issues, they like bring them up, and then by the end of the movie it's like they just kind of fizzle away. Yeah,
that's funny you bring that up, because someone at work who enjoyed the film said, and it really did bring it to my attention, because they were like, look, I would have loved this more, but you can tell the corporation has got their eyes on this and has their foot over it, and been like, you can go this far, but you
not
can't go
further than
much further than that, because if you belittle us and make fun of us too much, then we're going to have a problem.
That's the thing. It's like
he felt that on the project.
I feel that during the movie. I feel this kind of like manufactured discontent. Kind of like, you're allowed to rebel, but up to the point where we want you to rebel, and no further than that. Like, you can talk about the patriarchy and how it hurts people, but let's not bring a capitalism or consumerism that our brand encourages. Let's not bring up the fact that like thousands of women work to actually make Barbies in factories where they're paid cents on the dollar, and they have terrible conditions. Let's not touch on those topics. You know what I mean?
It's also funny because there's a character, America Ferrera's daughter, who brings up the problems that the Barbie doll created in for the feminist movement. And they never really... They all say it's Barbie's fault, it's Barbie's fault. They never say Mattel peddled all this stuff.
That's the thing
They
for
never
me.
say that.
That's the thing for me. Because, like, the idea of the movie, they're making Barbie a person, okay? Like, I know the whole thing is that she only becomes human at the end of blah, blah, blah. But they're making Barbie a person. They're making Barbie people. But Barbie in the real world is not a person. So if you're going to blame the issues of, like, Barbie in the real world and the genuine problems people have with Barbie in the real world, maybe you should blame it on the corporation. But they also, I mean, the corporation are just like soft baddies. They're kind of like bumbling buffoons who in the end actually do mean well, kind of thing. And just that kind of like washing of Mattel really did not leave a good taste in my mouth. Things like
that is understandable and
a
very fair criticism that I also, ever since seeing the film, that's been brought to light, has also kind of I see those issues, and if Greta Gerwig got even more free reign, we could
that's
have
the
got
thing.
something
That's
even
the thing.
spicier.
This is a movie, and I am aware that this is a movie that's being produced under a certain like way of the world, which is IP laws exist. They are held by giant corporations, and you have to make nice with those corporations if you even want to talk about those issues. In this case,
Sorry.
I was just going to say, in this case, I feel like Greta pushed as hard as she could and did as much as she could and critiqued as much as she could, but also there was a lot that was held back, and I don't like how it was held back. There's a lot of ideas about how, obviously, the hyper-capitalist system that we live under also hurts the patriarchy, also has ties to toxic masculinity. Like, it's like they're touching upon these topics. If we ignore the economical system, let's just talk about society, but then let's not talk about the broader spectrum that, like, you know, it's like they have a piece of a puzzle and they're going to discuss that piece, but they're not going to discuss those little bits that connect to other pieces just in case you might get that idea. And that kind of feeling I got from the movie, that kind of left me a bit sour, despite the fact that I think it's a fantastic movie. And I had a fabulous time with it. Like, honestly, it was fucking hilarious. It was really entertaining. It was really moving. And it's just, they kind of do that thing where they pay lip service to some stuff, but that they don't recognize other things. Like,
I want to ask about because other criticisms I've seen online is actually talking about the third act. I'm going to come to you, Kyle, about what were your feelings kind of going into that sort of final mission, that final fight? What was your kind of opinions of all?
Oh, interesting actually. That's a good point you brought up there. I think was I just distracted by the Ken number?
Yeah,
Ken number's
that
fun.
was great. That was great.
No, I mean I almost thought this. Right, okay, so gotta be careful here, not like insult everybody. The initial speech by Gloria, is it Gloria? Or is it?
I don't know. What's America Ferrera's character name? I don't know what her character is.
The first speech she does to stereotypical Barbie.
Yeah, that was great.
You know,
that's
fantastic. Brilliant. It was honestly fantastic.
Incredible.
And I was actually like quite moved.
Yeah.
And then that wee montage of them just kind of kicking people out of the kind of phase.
Yeah,
I was like, I was like funny, but I was like, right, okay. I the first punch was great in that first number.
Yeah.
And it has some wee gags, but I was like, it almost like the seriousness then dropped to quite gaggy quite quickly. But then that kind of final fight, you're kind of like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
You know what? I
like you said, you had Mattel show up for no reason other than I think Mattel were like, we want to be there in that final fight, and make it look like, oh, you know, we actually completely agree with what you guys are saying. You know?
I mean, they had to be there to promote.
I agree.
They had to be there to promote America Ferrera's character and be like, yeah, we have one woman in the company now. Yay!
You're gonna be promoted.
Yay!
I mean, look, I wish they just see the whole beach fight. I wish that didn't exist. I wish it just they do like a grease thing where they approach each other and then it just becomes a dance.
Yeah,
and look,
the dance was fucking gorgeous.
Greta Gerwig invoked some "Singing in the Rain," which I'm very grateful for.
I'm glad you cut that as well.
And them wearing black and kind of the lavender white set that they're on is very good. But yeah, the beach fight could have just kind of patched that. That's kind of the only thing that I have a gripe with. I really like stereotypical Barbie and Ken's final dialogue, where
that was very good.
Ken just being like, you know, once I found out there wasn't really anything about horses, I kind of lost interest. You know, am
I the only one that wants the T-shirt that says "I'm Ken off"?
Oh no,
I want the T-shirt.
That hoodie. It's like the tie.
Everyone on Earth wants that.
Everyone wants that. See, consumerism, goddammit, it's sneaking in.
Do you know what I think my biggest issue with this film is? And it's its success.
Really?
And the fact that Mattel have turned around and gone, we're making 14 properties.
Yeah, that's sad.
Viewfinder. And I'm like, I don't think you got the point.
You're gonna make so much money out of this film.
They're beginning. They've already got a director for the Polly Pocket movie.
God.
And Lily Collins is attached to play Polly Pocket.
Oh my God, that is.
I don't know if you saw that. I think that got announced today. But then you've got like Daniel Kaluuya doing the Barney film. J.J. Abrams doing a really grounded Hot Wheels. I'm
Oh
like,
my
guys, come
god!
on.
A grounded
Why?
Hot Wheels.
Why?
That makes no sense.
I think
Don't make it
I think it's
Gran
just Gran Turismo, to be honest.
Yeah. Which, by the way, I'm actually excited for the Gran Turismo one because it has the possibility
You've
to
got
be entertaining.
Rock'em Socket, Rock'em
Sock'em Robots.
Are we going
Yeah.
back to this?
My God, sorry.
They
I
did
can't
Rock'em
read.
Sock'em Robots.
You-
It was called Real Steel.
They did
anyone
Real
see
Steel.
that?
It was
Yeah.
it was terrible. I fucking
You've
loved it
got-
as a kid.
You've got Magic 8 Ball. You've got Barney. You've
Oh,
got Thomas and Friends film, which I'm guessing is Tom and Frank.
Okay, do they think that
Uno
people went?
and Master and Viewfinder.
Mastermind.
That bloody Viewmaster.
Oh
Oh.
God. Okay, do production companies really think that the reason that this movie was successful was because it's an old 80s nostalgic toy, or because it's one of the fucking biggest toy brands in the universe?
I don't know, man.
I
They're
don't know.
looking at it going.
But
That's
look,
like-
Bloody pirates
wanted
getting G.I. Joe out.
I want to
Yeah.
talk about success and box office stuff in a minute, but look,
Yeah.
I guess we should sort of just round off and give our
Yes.
scores. Actually, I want to talk about one little gripe I have with it as well.
Yes.
Before we do that, see, I loved all the stuff. See, when it was in the Barbie land and the Ken's world and stuff, I love it when we're there.
Oh, the real world.
I didn't like not the stuff that was happening. Like
No,
like
but
you're
I know
saying,
what you
I felt that Ken discovering the patriarchy was very funny.
Yes.
Actually, they have that really sweet scene with Barbie and the old
And the
woman on
bus
the
stop.
bench,
That one made me cry.
Yeah.
That's the
That
first
one's
time I cried in the
beautiful.
movie.
I love
that was
that.
gorgeous. Yeah.
where she calls her beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, that scene was actually almost cut for time. They actually almost cut that out of the film
What?
because they wanted to trim it.
That
Even though
is literally.
the film is under 2 hours.
That is like one of my
I was
two
gonna say, I
favorite
don't think the
scenes from
film-
the movie. Yeah.
yeah.
I think the film felt long at all.
But yeah, I said this in my written review, and it's that when we went to the real world,
Hmm.
it really didn't become cinematic at all. Like
Yeah.
it lost it, and it just it looked
It
like
looks like a TV
Jimmy
show.
from down. Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
It looked like a TV show. That's exactly
Like, do
what I
you
was
know
thinking.
Modern
Yeah.
Family? Because they're also in
Yeah,
LA. It looked
yeah.
exactly like an episode of Modern Family.
I think it's
yeah.
they just went right. We're only here for like 20 minutes. Just shoot it. Let's go back to
Yeah.
the sets.
Yeah,
Let's
but
do
like
that.
at the
Yeah.
same time, I feel like given some of the stuff we saw and like the way like Greta Gerwig shot that shot, like that scene at the bus stop,
Yeah.
and like you had that camera that suddenly lowered in quality, and it felt like I don't know if this, because I haven't seen it twice, I only watched it once, so I'm like talking about like the feeling right now, but it felt like those old VHS cameras that like your parent would like record in special moments of you as a kid with, like that's what it kind of like the kind of look. I feel like if they had pushed like more thematic ideas with the filmmaking in the real world, because I love the scene with Kent discovering the patriarchy. I think that's really interestingly shot, and that's a really good montage. I really like despite my issues with the Mattel Corporation and how they're portrayed, I really did like the chase scene through the Mattel offices,
Yeah, it was so
with like
silly.
everyone dancing and
Yeah,
stuff like that. Was
yeah.
fantastic. I feel like we should have brought more of that kind of very expressionist kind of like filmmaking to the rest of the real world.
Absolutely, because it looks
yeah.
like overexposed and washed
Yes,
out. Like
yes.
it's like kind of Marvel movie esque. Kind of like
yeah,
the MCU.
yeah.
It's also this is a real world that a toy company acknowledges that there's a Barbie
Yes.
land,
Yeah.
and that it's just a thing.
Yeah.
So why can we have a wee bit more
Yeah,
goofiness
yeah,
in
yeah.
this
I
real
completely
world,
agree,
where it's
Kyle. That's a
not our
really good
real
point.
world?
Yeah.
And they mentioned stuff like this has happened before, so it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you know.
Oh, like when like sort of things came
Yeah.
out. Oh, this is as bad. I'm like, yeah, well, we're not trying to like justify that there's a portal where like kids' dreams become imaginations or something.
It's not the world building.
And
We
it
just want the
exists.
aesthetic of it, basically.
Yeah, it exists, and they're sitting there going, "Oh yeah."
Also, let's
we know about
let's
that.
talk about that ending as well, because we have
Yes.
we have Barbie talk with the creator of Barbie, or the ghost of I think,
The creator,
because
yeah.
she's been dead for
Ruth
quite some
Ginsburg.
time. And I have that
They brought
whole-
up the tax evasion issues, which I thought was hilarious. Sadly, they
Yeah.
didn't bring up the fact that like the original Barbie was based on an adult toy of all things.
yeah, like in Germany or something, right?
Yeah, I
Um,
think it was Austrian or something. Yeah.
Yeah, but like
Yeah.
they have the whole speech in that sort of white,
White Void.
heaven-esque or purgatory-esque thing.
Also, like the
Um,
fact that it wasn't fully white. We've seen so many white voids. I'm glad it
Void,
just went with
probably.
like this kind of like weird thing
Yeah.
rather than like straight up flat
Yeah.
white void, which we've had a bunch of.
Yeah, but obviously he talks about how mothers are held back so they can watch their, the idea is that mothers give up their life in order for their children to sort of progress and succeed, and there's that whole dialogue, and also she gives up, being immortalized in the idea of Barbie and decides to be mortal, and there's that funny final closing line where she goes to visit the gynecologist, which is a great way to end that. Hilarious way to end the film, because like, oh, where's she walking off to? And then she just, I'm here to see my gynecologist
or something. Yeah,
hilarious. I thought it was a job interview as well. What did you think of that ending?
I really like that. I feel like it was really emotional for me. That moment really got me. The speech specifically about like how mothers like basically hold themselves back just so the kids can like move on to the future. I feel like that's like one of the best messages I got out of this movie. And again, with all like the criticism of like the things they didn't talk about, things they didn't touch upon, that for me was kind of the most important message that it gave. Even the like thing about the patriarchy and stuff, but like just the idea that like the reason we have to fight now is so the people so our children and our children's don't have to. Like that whole idea of like suddenly this generational fight where it's like, oh, the kids nowadays have it too good, and it's like, yeah, that was the point. That was the whole reason. We were supposed to the whole idea of why you were fighting is to make it better for the next generation and better for the next and the next. And we're now in this like situation where like there's this giant movement of people wanting to push back and go back and like, let's not change anything and stuff. And for me, that idea of like, yeah, we just like we have to like we lay ourselves down so the people behind us can actually take another step, and like it's just a really nice sentiment it was to me about like the entire feminist movement. Like we're talking about a movement that was it's really not that long ago that women didn't have a vote. It's really not that long ago that like women didn't have rights over their bodily autonomy. Today there's
still in many places
there's still many places in the world, the US included, where they've lost that right. And like it's really important to remember that that's the reason that they're doing it. It's mothers in this case, metaphorically and literally, and that she is Barbie's mother in a very metaphorical way.
And that whole montage with the real footage and Billie Eilish's song, really effective stuff. I thought that was actually really
that made
sweet.
Me cry. Like
and it really hammered home, obviously, the point of the film. Like there is obviously you got the whole conflict with Barbies and Kens, and it's all very big and funny. But there's also that whole dynamic between Glory and Sasha, where their mother-daughter relationship is fractured, and it's about bringing that back together, and they bond over childhood silliness and playing with Barbies. And just like that montage really hit that home, and also the film itself and the success of the film really hit home that point, and we'll get to that after scores when we talk about box office. So
I did. I did. That's another pet peeve of the movie for me. I would have loved more time between Gloria and her daughter. I didn't think that relationship was developed enough, and given how important it is for the story of the movie, I missed that. So
okay. Right, what are you giving it?
Yes. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 because I don't think it's a perfect movie. It has, like I said, a bunch of flaws, but goddamn was it entertaining, and I will watch it again. I will laugh just as much. Every single person in this fucking production gave it their all. Like, these are some of like the best BFX we've seen in forever, just because of like how gorgeous the actual effects and the sets were. Like, you didn't notice when they were using visual effects at all, like whenever things were implemented and stuff. It was just completely seamless. It felt like the whole kind of production was on sync, like one of the choreographed dances. And it's hilarious. It's fantastic. I love it. Overall, I think it's I mean, if nothing else, it talks about the issues in a very easily digestible way for a very wide audience. So
yes. Yeah.
I just have a hope that people are going to take something from those messages and hopefully leave behind the whole consumerism shit while they're at it. They'll have to nitpick through there, but a step forward is still a step forward. I'm taking this as a win.
Kyle, what are you giving it?
I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
I really enjoyed it, but like I say, I think sometimes the real world could have been a slightly goofier in that kind of sense, and I do have that kind of same issue with Mattel, how they were the villain, but then
they weren't really the villain.
The Christmas went, okay, back up a wee bit, calm down. But yeah, a solid 8 out of 10.
Guess this is the first time we've all agreed on the score. It might be. I'm also giving it an 8 out of 10. I think it's the best comedy of the year so far. I think it's really funny. Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling too are just bringing it. They're both brilliant comedic actors. I love them. Not to mention everyone else. Simu Liu, I know for some reason is getting a bit of slack on Twitter. I thought he was funny. I think people just have a beef against him. I don't really know why. It's very strange. I thought he did
a fantastic job. He was hilarious.
He was great too. Issa Rae and Kate McKinnon also very, very funny. I liked them all. And like what you were saying, Gonzalo, I think it really does tackle these themes about disproportionate problems with obviously male power, and the idea of identity as a whole is really tackled here about the impossible beauty standards of women and what does it mean to be a woman. And obviously this has come from the mouth of a man, so I mean, take it with a grain of salt. My opinion will not mean much here.
Good point
and all that whole sort of mother-daughter thing as well. I think actually, although like you're saying, Gonzalo, probably should have spent more time with those two characters. It still had an emotional effect on me, especially with that song. So big ups to Billie Eilish as well for that. And
the soundtrack for this movie as well. I do have to say the soundtrack for this movie was fantastic. Not only the score but the actual like songs that were sang. Billie Eilish, this one. I think we had a Dua Lipa one. She even did a cameo as the mermaid, didn't she?
Charlie XX had the
beginning.
Song,
Oh my god, the
John
beginning
Cena
song. John Cena was in this. Yeah. Also did
guys,
an
we
excellent
forgot
job.
to talk about Michael Cera. Oh my god,
Oh my god, Michael Cera. Oh my god, Alan. Ken's friend. God damn it. That's another thing about this movie. Very much like the Lego movie did for me, having like a lot of like background in that. This was like for my girlfriend a really fun movie because she understood all of those references because she knows a lot about the history of Barbie, the different collectible ones and stuff. Like the whole the grow up Barbie one where like you put the hand down and her breasts go out. That's a real Barbie that happened.
My sister had that dog.
Yes, the dog that poops.
I can remember.
I remember ads for that freaking dog. Oh my god.
Yeah, that's quite.
Yeah. The two Kens that you saw, the daddy one, and then there was the
Rob Wright.
Yes.
Rob thing from Gavin and Stacey.
Yeah. So the other Kent, I don't know if you guys know, but the other Kent, basically, the reason he was taken out of stores, it's because they based his fashion on the gay fashion at the time, without realizing that having a ring on a chain around your thing, that was a cock ring. So they were selling toys with cock rings for children, and then once they realized that they had to bring him back.
Anyway, I'm going to round off my score here. But yeah, I loved also that whole sort of, like you were talking about America Ferrera's speech, how basically women are sort of scapegoated, and that they're sort of, it's impossible to be a woman, they have to be this, that and that, and it's impossible to be all these multitude of things. I love the whole resolution of sort of Ken's thing and his sort of his ego and just all that sort of, that whole toxic masculinity dialed up to 11 stuff. I thought was hilarious.
That was so
funny. A great sort of, and I just love how it's triggered people as well. But look, 8 out of 10 across the board. And look, let's quickly talk about box office stuff for this. So, like I was saying when I was talking about Oppenheimer, this weekend was the 4th biggest box office weekend in history. If you add up all the films that made money that weekend, of course Barbie was the biggest chunk of that, with an opening of 162 million in the States alone, and like a global opening of 370 million. Ridiculous money.
That is incredible.
We'll talk about Oppenheimer in a second, but look, currently, after in 6 days, it's made $472 million, right, worldwide.
Wow.
Now, what are we thinking the box office is going to be when this is all said and done?
For which one? Oppenheimer?
Barbie.
Oh, I think Barbie's going to beat Avatar for sure.
What?
Finally, let's
go.
go.
Calm down.
Let's go.
You just be quiet. I'm going to go to the financial guy here, right? Kyle, 472 million as we speak.
Yeah.
Barbie. I thought Barbie hit 500.
It's loose. The official figure here on Box Office Mojo is 472, but there's been reports it's 500 million. Yeah.
I think it will easily hit the 800 because I think this will have a lot of momentum.
I mean, it's going to go well past $1 billion.
I don't know. Like,
mate,
I would like to see how
that's an insane
opening
opening weekend. 370 million worldwide is a ridiculous opening weekend.
I know.
That's bigger than Top Gun last year.
Oh, damn.
I'm worried. I don't know how many. I'm just thinking about how many people have taken their kids to see this for one time.
Okay.
Right? And I'm also wondering how many of those kids, since we're saying this isn't a kids' film, are going to be going, can you take me back to that film where that lovely Barbie starts thinking about death and cries a lot?
Well, I think you guys are missing one huge thing here.
Yeah.
And something that has been missing from the box office for years now is that there has not been a huge, big budget film aimed towards women. That's a good point. Every single year, what is it? The superhero film, the fantasy film, the sci-fi film, the male action film.
That's a good point.
There's kids, there's animated films for families and kids.
I've never seen that many women at the cinema
big box
before.
office, big huge budget film for women. I mean, it's for the female audience. I mean, obviously, we had a great time with it, and plenty of guys and families are. But it's a female orientated film.
What do you think? 1.3, 1.2?
I'm thinking that. I'm thinking those numbers. I'm thinking like 1.3.
I don't think it'll do more than 1.5. I think that's going to be.
I think it will.
I think that will be pushing it. If it hits 1.5, I'll be very.
We'll see.
I mean,
how much staying power it has as well.
I think it will get close or around to what Super Mario was made, about 1.2, 1.3.
But that's the thing, guys. Like, it depends on how much staying power it has. Because, like, let's see what comes after that.
There's not much else out on the file. The three biggest films of the summer: Mission Impossible, Oppenheimer, and Barbie.
They're already out.
They're out now. They're out. Obviously, you've got the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles film is out next week. And
looking forward to that one.
That'll do well with kids. That Haunted Mansion film that Disney released is going to bomb hard.
Looks awful.
Blue Beetle.
Oh, Blue Beetle's going to be a disaster.
Did you watch the trailer for that? That was awful.
52 million, like, domestically in total or something.
It's not looking good for Blue Beetle. The Blue Beetle film looks like a TV movie. But look, let's go to Oppenheimer.
It does. Yeah.
Let's go to Oppenheimer now. This becomes much more complicated, right? But the opening for this was phenomenal. A 3-hour biopic which has black and white scenes and is mainly people talking in rooms. In the States alone, made 82 million at the weekend. That's a bigger opening than Mission Impossible did in its first 5 days.
That is pretty incredible.
That
is pretty
incredible. That's big especially for an R-rated film. It's currently
word
worldwide.
Of mouth stuff, though. I feel like that has to do with word of mouth stuff, because like, also Mission Impossible at this point is very much a sequel. Which I know is a weird thing to say because it's the fucking 7th movie, but like Mission Impossible haven't really been sequels up to like this last two, and I feel like people who don't remember or haven't watched the last ones aren't as interested in this new one as you can have with like something like Oppenheimer, where you could just walk in and watch it, you know.
Also, it's the biggest opening weekend for any Christopher Nolan film that isn't a Batman film. It's third in his opening weekends behind The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises. It's 220 million after 6 days worldwide. I mean,
holy shit.
That's huge for a film like this.
Yeah, that is
like
something.
Universal, give them all credit after Christopher Nolan said he's never working with Warner Brothers again after what they did with HBO Max.
Yeah.
Universal went, do what you want, and I reckon when he said, guys, I've got an idea. I'm gonna make this 3-hour biopic about Robert Oppenheimer. I'm gonna make it 3 hours long. And it's going to be R-rated, and it's going to cost you $100 million. They would have been sitting there sweating in that boardroom, being like, "Okay, Christopher, you can make that film." And he's like, "Oh, by the way, I want to release it in July." They would have been like, "Fuck." And look at it. It's done. Incredible.
Why do you think both Warner Bros. Movies came out at the same time? They needed a backup. Barbie was meant to just recoup what Oppenheimer lost. Like, let's be real here. That's why they got them out at the same time. They're like,
no, Oppenheimer's a Universal film.
Oh, it's a Universal one. Oh
I
shit!
said
I thought it was a
Christopher
Warner
Nolan,
one.
Christopher Nolan left
I
Warner
thought it was a
Brothers
Warner
because
one.
of the HBO Max stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, good on him.
I don't know. I don't know about Oppenheimer. I don't know if he'll have as much steam as Barbie, because you're making just backing your point, Lewis, about Barbie being like the first major women's film, in a long time. Also, 3 hours. Do you think at the point where it's getting like weeks and weeks down after the
No,
the
rewatching
hardcore
a
fans
2-hour
see it?
movie is a lot easier than rewatching a 3-hour movie.
That was my point. Yeah, like
I've seen it twice.
how many people really
No,
yeah, you're
I am
different. You're
different.
slightly
Yeah,
different.
but are you
You're
going to
already
see it again? Now that's the question. Lewis.
probably not. I mean, it's
Yeah.
pretty heavy.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking.
What are you thinking, Lewis? Like,
Well, I'm thinking the
Six or seven?
second weekend projections. This is just the States. Then the second weekend predictions for Barbie is about 70 million, which is what the original opening weekend projections were. Now that's the second weekend, which is insane. And the Oppenheimer one is about 30 to 40 million. So I think domestically it's going to easily breeze past 200 million. I'm going to say it probably will make Dunkirk money. Or I think more than Dunkirk. Dunkirk made about 500 million. I reckon it's going to make about 500 to 600 million worldwide.
Yeah.
right, okay, so I was a wee bit high with your.
Yeah.
So okay, let's say 600.
I want to say 600. I think it will have good legs because it's
That'd
an
be
adult
nice.
film as well, and
Yeah.
maybe people
Yeah.
will be interested.
There's
in
not that much like older people kind of movies out right now. Like
Yeah,
what are they going to
yeah.
watch? The Meg 2? Like
That's
yeah.
true.
Well, like, there's also the Meg 2 looks
Hype.
goddamn
Yeah.
disaster.
It
But
looks
like,
great.
there's also look there's clear winners here, and there's one clear loser, and that's
Yeah.
Paramount for being
Yeah.
stupid enough to release Mission Impossible the week before these
the
two
same
films.
time. Yeah. Yeah.
It's quite funny. I know what their thinking was. They went, let's release it 2 weeks after Indiana Jones 5 because that will need all the room, and then a week before these two because it will make more money than them. They should have released it a week after
That's
Indiana
dumb.
Jones
Yeah,
5,
yeah.
and they would have had 2 weeks
Yeah.
to themselves. But that's quite funny that happened.
Yeah.
But look, I guess that will round off our Barbenheimer discussion. So thank you, Gonzalo, for joining me.
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Great, and thank you, Kyle, as well.
You're welcome.
You guys are enough. It's fine.
Working
On next week's episode, we are going to be rounding off this trilogy of episodes, or we're going to be talking about Greta Gerwig, and we're going to talk about what we think her best film is. She's only directed 4 films to date. Oh, and I forgot to mention.
I have 3 films to watch.
Okay, you get to it, you fool. What an idiot. Greta Gerwig was actually after the Barbie release there. That is the biggest opening weekend for a female director ever, and one of the biggest opening weekends of all time. So she has a big accolade to herself.
Heck
now.
yeah.
And it's very well done.
She's
And
also
now she's
quite
doing that,
she's also quite young for like a director.
Under
and stuff, like,
she's
I
in
think.
her 30s. Yeah, she's in her 30s.
Yeah, like that's fucking incredible.
Very impressive. So of course we're going to talk about Greta Gerwig and what we think her best film is, and me and Kyle will hopefully have a review for the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem movie. So that will be on next week's show. But look, we just gave our opinion on Oppenheimer and Barbie. But at the end of the day, those were our unwanted opinions. Thank you very much.